Hello and welcome to Cecil TV. I'm Alison Donley. This is the fourth in a series of interviews of candidates for Cecil County Council. The candidates are on the Republican primary ballot, for which in-person voting takes place July 19th. In this interview, I'll be speaking with Bill Coutz, who is running for the 2nd District Council seat against Rebecca Hamilton. The 2nd District includes Elkton, Elk Mills, and Childs. Bill, thanks so much for being here. How are you today?
Thank you for having us, Alison, and we really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and the citizens in Cecil County.
Of course. So you are seeking a second term on the County Council. What do you feel you've accomplished, and what are your priorities for the future?
They're very much in line with one another. What I've accomplished is I've learned what this job has entailed. I did a lot of work before actually running for office last time. I attended County Council meetings for better part of a year prior to that, learned exactly what the council does, what was involved in legislation, and what really was incumbent for us to understand and learn. I've always been involved in management and leadership. I just needed to know how to translate that into a role on county council, and that was accomplished. And the biggest things that we've accomplished, that I've accomplished as a county councilman, is I've learned to communicate and be open and transparent with my constituency. I've learned how to listen more appropriately and more in depth. And I've also learned that problems come from all over the county, and you're never going to be able to predict what they are, from the smallest problems to something that is far more monumental. But the problem that the person brings to you at that moment is the biggest problem in their world at that time. And you have to be able to translate that into action so that you can focus on coming up with resolutions, working through the issues, the challenges, and coming up with resolutions that will satisfy both the constituent that you're working with, but also stay within the legal limits of the law here in Cecil County. I plan to continue that, and by learning that in my first term, it's given me the opportunity to expand on that and get more in depth with the legislation that will benefit the county as a whole.
Checks and balances are an essential part of protecting our democracy at all levels of government. In your opinion, how can the County Council provide transparency for the public in local government, particularly the County Executive's Office?
Communication. Again, it kind of goes back to what I've learned. I've learned to listen and then ask questions. And those questions sometimes are what are necessary to draw out the information that is important to the people that it will impact. There's 103,983 people here in Cecil County, and each of them has a right to know and understand exactly what their county government is doing for them on a day-to-day basis. That includes the administration, the executive branch, and that's why charter government really works. I know that we're fairly young in charter government, but I think we've come a long way. We still have work to do, that's for sure, but we've come a long way, and one of the biggest things that council can do is pay attention and communicate and hope that the administration will reciprocate that communication and be transparent so that we can get that information back to the constituents that we represent. A lot of times I ask questions that I may know the answer to, but it is my way of getting that information out into the public forum so that those that may not have had the opportunity to understand where that came from will have the opportunity to see where it comes from, and I can actually work with them to help them understand maybe the more complex portions of it.
At the Chamber of Commerce Forum last week, you briefly mentioned the charter amendments that will be on the ballot for voters to consider this fall. Can you talk a little bit about what those amendments would mean for transparency?
Sure, it's a great question, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Those charter amendments go back to what I just said a few minutes ago. We've done well as a charter government, and the charter has been a good document to lead us through, but it hasn't been perfect. There are things within the charter that we have found needed a little tweaking. They needed a little bit of adjustment, and that's not unusual for the first 15 to 20 years of a charter government. You discover things that may have, at the conception, been what we thought were the right solutions, and we've seen that they don't quite fit perfectly. So what I would ask people to do is take a look at the charter amendments that are being proposed on this year's ballot in the referendum. They're really, really given the opportunity for the constituents to have a say in how their charter government is not only configured, but how it performs going forward. Charter amendments that address how council members and the county executive are replaced in the event that those resignations take place. Those are very, very important, and we've learned that. Redistricting, how who can sit on a redistricting committee, and how those people are selected. Very, very important, because those only happen every few years, every 10 years, and redistricting impacts how you vote, who you vote for, and who those people are within your district. We had a very, very minor tweaking of the districts this year. We moved a few thousand people out of my district, District 2, into District 1, and there was a very, very efficient way to do that. And hats off to the committee, the redistricting committee, that sat down and put in the hard work and put in the time and came up with a very, very cost-effective, efficient way of adjusting the districts to make sure that substantial equality existed in all of the voting districts, all 5 voting districts here in the county. So those are really what we'd like people to do, is take a look at those amendments, understand. If you have questions, reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to go through any questions that you might have. But consider those amendments on the referendum very, very seriously this year.
Great. We often hear this analogy from candidates and so-called fiscal conservatives between personal or business finances and how government should operate when it comes to spending money. However, we know that individuals and businesses make investments in order to reap benefits in the long run. But businesses invest in technology and high-performing employees with an eye toward future gains. Doesn't Cecil County need to invest in our schools and our libraries and parks in order to attract new residents and employers who will ultimately expand the county's tax base?
You hit the nail on the head, Alison. As much as we hear people say, "Oh, I want a business sense in my leader, and I want the county to be run as a business," you have to really mean that, though. You have to invest. One of the hardest things that you have as a leader, and that comes, from the municipal level all the way up through the federal level. And I've heard leaders say this over and over again. One of the most difficult decisions that they have to make is, I have X amount of resources. I have to figure out what I have to spend today to cover the need, or the municipality or the state or the federal government. But I also have to take in consideration my investment into the future. Without that investment in the future, there really is no future. The investment at a county level are those investments that you just highlighted: education, public safety, higher education, libraries, parks, quality of life issues that draw people to this county. And you touched on another point that is so poignant: economic development. We can do a great job with economic development and drawing companies to come here because, let's face it, we have fairly efficient property pricing, probably some of the best on the East Coast. And we have a very, very good transportation system here that puts us in place to make it very, very attractive to companies that want to locate here. The problem is, we can bring those companies here and we can attract them and get them here. If we can't fulfill the employment needs that they have, then employees are going to come from outside of our county, and they're going to go back home to their jurisdictions and their counties, and they're going to take their tax dollars with them. So not only do we have to economically develop businesses, we have to develop the employment pool here that successfully fulfills the job employments that we need here, so that our tax dollars stay here and that we grow the tax base organically, so that you and I don't have to pay more and more each year. No, we spread that out over the course of years and over the new people that we attract in here, and the new businesses. Don't forget that these businesses pay exponentially higher taxes and larger amounts in taxes than we do as an individual. Thank God.
Right. With school safety back on everybody's minds once again, it's notable that the county executive's budget again falls short in funding needed to install secure entrances at all 8 of the remaining schools that don't have them. Additionally, the Hornberger administration eliminated the pay parity clause, which aligns salary increases for the sheriff's department and detention center employees with that of other county employee increases. Is there anything you think should or can be done to get the needed funding?
I will tell you immediately, I advocated for our sheriff's department and our law enforcement without hesitation and consistently and constantly. We are hemorrhaging law enforcement officers from our Cecil County Sheriff's Office. And it's not because it's not a good job. It's not because they don't like serving here. They love being here in Cecil County. It's one of the jurisdictions that is by far the most sought after in the state of Maryland. Good communities, we have good services here, but we're underpaying our law enforcement officers, grossly underpaying them. And I can't, with good conscience, ask a law enforcement officer to stay here and deprive his family of maximizing his income. He's doing one of the worst jobs that we have out there. It's the most dangerous. It's the least appreciated. And the very, very least that we can do is pay them competitively. It very, very much bothers me that it was this administration's intention to back them into a 4-year contract that was disadvantageous, to be quite honest. It's come forward and it's been plainly brought forward that they're in a contract now that puts them in a disadvantaged situation. And it's apparent because we're watching law enforcement officers leave on a regular weekly basis. We lost 5 officers, an entire patrol division, to Baltimore County. And it was simply and utterly just because they were underpaid and undercompensated, and they went where they could maximize the income for their family. Right. None of us would ask anyone to do anything different. How can we ask our law enforcement to do that? Now we're going to create a blue ribbon commission that starts tomorrow, which will take several months to complete. And the question when that was brought up during the budget process, my question was, how many officers between now and when that Blue Ribbon Commission commences, and then how many more will we lose while that Blue Ribbon Commission is bringing information back to us that we already know the answers to? We understand what the issue is. It's been brought to us in very, very plain terms, black and white, presented to us in data, where that we can see that our officers are grossly underpaid in comparison to officers who are performing the same jobs in jurisdictions right adjacent to where we are here, and they're leaving. They don't want to leave. They like it here in Cecil County, but they do have to go and maximize the opportunities that they have for their families because they have children. They have children that want to go to school. They have children that want to graduate and go to college. They have bills and they have the same obligations that you and I have, and we're not paying them at a rate which is commensurate to the surrounding jurisdictions near here. With regard to public safety in our schools, small cap was basically eliminated from the school board budget this year. A single school, 1 out of 8, was included in the small cap budget. As Uvalde happened, I immediately got on the phone with Superintendent Lawson and said, hey, where are we? And he sent me the list. Here are the schools that do not have secure entrances installed at this point in time. What do you know? And here's the numbers that coordinate with those. That's off to the administration. I made a direct communication to the county executive and said, hey, let's put everything aside. No political, no policy, no political, environment needs to enter into this. Let's sit down and talk about how we can get this done. This is the children in our schools. I got no response, but to their credit, they came back and said, okay, we're going to fund one more school. So an additional $240,000 was put forth. That still leaves a $1.5 million gap. And we're sitting on a fund surplus, which could fund that. Dr. Lawson made the commitment, X amount of dollars, I'll cover the rest. To this day, we still haven't seen the $240,000 amendment brought to the council, and there's been no movement whatsoever to move the other schools into a situation where we can get those done. It takes time. These secure entrances don't happen overnight. And I just want to make it clear, our schools are secure. Like, you can't walk into a school. These schools just don't have the vestibules and those kind of things, which add to the safety of a person that's entering the schools and exiting the schools. So
Hmm.
The money's there. Let's use it for the most appropriate means that we can. And one of those right now is the secure entrances of our schools, and the other is paying our law enforcement officers. Get it done. We can't afford to lose additional law enforcement officers, and we are going to lose additional law enforcement officers if we don't change this. And while we're doing this study, what can we do in the meantime? There are things that can be done, and I would encourage this administration to do whatever they can to make sure that we don't lose additional law enforcement officers.
Your opponent's team has characterized you and Al Miller as tax and spend liberals and suggests that the incumbent team, you all, answers to lobbying groups and special interests. How do you respond to that?
Show me where I've responded to special interest groups. Show me where I've taken money from developers and the such that I have seen that these other groups have. They're out-of-state investors, contributors that have made contributions to those campaigns. I've never voted for a tax increase. We voted in a budget, which in a property tax increase, but it was the same reason that last year's budget included a property tax increase. How do I know? I'm a property owner. I received my tax bill from the current administration's first budget. It included a letter in it that said, "Oh, we've implemented a tax cut." I opened my tax bill. My taxes went up dramatically. So I guess that if that could be considered an increase, then I would say that this administration would be responsible for that tax increase. They had the opportunity to lower the constant yield to a point where my taxes would not have increased. They did not do that. Did they lower it? Yes, but they did not lower it to the point where it impacted a tax cut in my property taxes. And the same was true for the previous administration. That constant yield was held. It was not lowered. And it resulted in assessments causing a tax increase. The exact same mechanism that caused a tax increase by this administration's first budget, and I'm guessing will cause the same to happen in this budget. So if I have at any point in time voted for a tax increase, it has been due to assessments going up, and it has been consistent from the last administration to this administration. I've never voted for a tax increase of any type, any sort, and so a tax and spend moniker that they want to hang on us is inappropriate, and in all honesty, it's false. So I won't spend a whole lot more time addressing that. Those are the facts, and it's consistent, and it's not a terrible thing that our property values are going up. It means that we're doing some of the right things here in Cecil County to improve property values. There was a period of time when they were stagnant and they didn't move at all. I think we should all be a little bit happy that our property that we own today is worth more than it was yesterday.
A strategy for newcomers is to prove their conservatism by attacking from the right on issues that have little to do with actual governance. For example, we hear again and again about candidates defending our liberties and slashing taxes, as we were just talking about. As a candidate, that's the hand you're dealt with as a person running for office. But for voters, this can be very confusing. What does the term conservative Republican mean to you?
Conservative Republican means that you hold a fiscal conservancy that does what it can to limit the growth of government. It does what it can to enhance the civil liberties of the constituency that we're serving. We have very little impact at the county level on some of the things that my opponents have chosen to make stands on. Right. I'm a gun owner. I've always been a gun owner. I support a Second Amendment. I have no impact. I have no purview on our Second Amendment at the county level, just like I don't have impact on most of our constitutional rights that are at the federal level. But what I can fight for is fiscal conservancy here in the county by making sure that our tax and spend is as responsible and efficient as it can be, so that the proficiency translates from, okay, the dollar that you pay in taxes is used to its most efficient and most appropriate use and put into the resources that serve the constituents here in the county. I know that, and I've had this conversation with many people out there and had said, if you had associated a tax cut that was purported, what would have been your feeling if I said, we're just going to hold steady, but I'm going to make sure that your sheriff's department is fully funded and that we don't lose officers on a regular basis. I'm going to make sure that your school systems are fully funded, and not to the bare minimum of maintenance of effort, but fully funded to the resources that are necessary to make sure that we retain good teachers, that we retain the services that are necessary to make sure that your children receive the best education that they can. I'm going to make sure that your Cecil College is the only institution of higher learning in this county is fully funded, and that we can expand on the great job that Dr. Bolt and that entity has done. And you can see it. Our nursing program tops our welding program, truck driving. I mean, all of these trades that are paying, I don't know if anybody knows what a welder makes now.
A lot of money.
Make a lawyer blush, you know what I mean? And, yeah. We've done a great job of promoting these. And at the same time, I hear nothing but disregard paid by my opponents and fingers pointed at we don't need libraries. Libraries are a waste. Schools, you can't throw money at them. No one's asking anybody to throw money at anyone. We're asking them to appropriate the appropriate resources that are necessary to make our schools the best that they can be, to give our children the opportunity to gain an education which gives them an upper hand when they do go out into the workforce, or if they go on to a university or a college, or if they stay right here and go to Cecil College and get their first 2 years before they transfer to another university. One of the greatest things that you can see happening, and I saw it several times this year at graduation, students graduating with not only a high school diploma, but a 2-year associate's degree. And if you don't think that doesn't make an impact, go and look at the cost of college. If you walk into a university and you already have a 2-year degree and you're only working for another 2 years at a university that may cost $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year, and you cut that bill in half, that makes an impact. If we're not funding Cecil College and we're not funding our school systems to the best of our ability, then we're not doing the responsible thing for our students here in Cecil County, and therefore not the constituents in Cecil County.
Okay. Well, Bill Coutz, it has been a pleasure to talk to you.
Always a pleasure.
And Bill Coutz is running for re-election in Cecil County's second council district in Elkton, Elk Mills, and Childs. Is that right?
That's correct. So we basically, my district covers from Route 40 to about the Molitor Road area and the Delaware state line over to around Tony's Road. So a little bit smaller geographic district because we have a higher population density here in the Elkton area. So yeah, I'm running back for the office that I currently sit in. I think I've done what people have expected me to do. And the most important thing is I've done what I said I would do when I ran 4 years ago. And I don't plan on changing that. And I'll serve you for another 4 years and do the type of things that I've done so far. And I will always listen to the people here in Cecil County. And I appreciate the opportunity, Alison, to talk to all of those people today. And you do a great job, and I appreciate it.
Thanks. Well, have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Make sure everybody gets out and votes on July 19th. And we have early voting from July 7th through the 14th. So if you want to take advantage of that opportunity, please do. But make sure that you get out and vote July 19th and vote Coutts for Cecil. Thank you.